Edward Leos. Welcome to Travel Talk, filmed at the Peachtree Rose Marketing Studios and hosted by the Hotel Guide publisher, Edward
Good
Leos.
afternoon, everybody. Edward Leos here, publisher of the Hotel Guide and your host for Travel Talk. Really excited about today's episode. I've got the CEO of Elevated Magazine's, Jud Bardwell. We connected, and man, did we hit it off. Just former, both of us publishers, and a lot of what we're doing. We love some travel as well. And Jud, I'm excited to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you very much, my friend. I'm excited to be here as well, and I'm very humble and grateful to have met you a few weeks ago via our mutual friend, Liz Galloway. I got to drop a Liz Galloway a name drop, but pleasure to be here, and also kudos on the Hotel Guide and being such an entrepreneur that you have created what you have over the years.
I appreciate that, and it's funny, I didn't even have to pay for that plug, so that's even better. When a guest already does that. So as I like to do for my audience out there, is they always want to know who I'm talking to. So Jud, tell us a little bit about your background, kind of how you got to Elevated Magazines, and then we'll talk a little bit about travel and what's going on with the brand as well.
We will talk a lot about travel because that's what your audience wants to hear. But so thank you for the Elevated Magazines is something that I created after my career has been media, advertising, etc. since college, and that stems back to the Stern Show in LA and a number of great ad agencies, etc. And Elevated was basically in October of 2023. I being an entrepreneur like you, my friend, yeah. The inspiration for it, I was living in Aspen, and I was working in the luxury magazine business for an amazing woman at the time. It was Aspen Peak Magazine, which now Modern Luxury owns. But I remember seeing this copy of Du Jour that was being dropped off. Yeah. And Jason Bin, who created and runs Du Jour now, he had created, he owned Niche Media, which owned all of those magazines, which then Modern Luxury bought. But I saw this cover, and Aspen Peak was great. We had De Niro covers, you name it. But this cover that Jason had done, and he's a wicked genius in his own right. Yeah. I mean, he started Ocean Drive down in Miami Beach back in the day. And that's how he built that whole empire. But I saw this cover, it was black and white, and it was Angelina Jolie and a male actor that she was in a film with. And it was just something about that cover that, a moment of inspiration can come from anything. It can come from seeing a beautiful woman, seeing, being in a place at the right time, for you, when you were in your 20s, right? When you purchased the hotel. Right? Yeah.
25 when I was sold the magazine. Yep.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, that's incredible. And now that you're only 27, what you've done in that amount of time is incredible.
It's amazing.
No, but I do love your story. It's a strong one because there are very few true entrepreneurs out there. But anyway, so that inspired me and it stuck with me. And so then after living in Turks and Caicos for a number of months, which if anyone's never been to, because this is a travel podcast, if anyone's never been to Turks and Caicos, Grace Bay Beach is absolutely sensational. It's one of the, or it's considered by Condé Nast, I believe, every year after year, the number one tropical beach on the planet. And the people are kind. It's an amazing place. Living there is interesting, but it is a great place. So I was there, came back to Miami Beach, another great place to visit or live. I love Miami Beach. And I'm just trying to weave in as much travel as you'd like to hear. But so then that's when I thought now's the time. So I came up with the magazines, and at first I was going to model it after Modern Luxury in terms of doing a different title in multiple cities. And then I realized that it made more sense to create a national title. And so it was one core title, Elevated Luxury Life, for a number of years. And then in March of 2020, I was living in Miami Beach, but also had a place up in Pennsylvania, another great place to hit. I never thought I'd live there, but one of the most magical places to travel is, and I'd never lived on a big river. And when I still try to describe this area to people, especially people from, who've well-traveled and whatnot, it's hard to describe it because it makes you sound like you should possibly be wearing a white jacket because it doesn't make sense. But I discovered this place, luckily, and it's a magical place called New Hope, Pennsylvania, and it's right on the Delaware River. It's like being back in time. It's like a ski town, like a Telluride, Colorado, without the ski hill. It's just amazing. It's in Bucks County, which is also one of the most affluent counties in North America. It's just a really great place. Wow. And it's also, again, right on the Delaware. And then right across the bridge is Lambertville, New Jersey. See, anyone who listens to this and be like, wait, did he just talk about living in Turks and Caicos, Miami Beach? Now he's like touting living on the Delaware River in Jersey. Yeah. And most people, if they're from, say, SoCal or whatnot, when they hear Jersey, they think, the Sopranos or whatever. But it's like, no, the country there is just, it changed my life. The towpath, all of it. But anyways, so I got a second place down and this is what changed, as I think we talked about this, occurrences can happen for people in general, but especially for entrepreneurs. I had gotten a place down in Miami Beach, just a great place with my two little sidekicks, my dogs. And then one of my contributors called me and said she couldn't go on this trip to the Bahamas for a new client. And I said, why? And she said, have you not heard what's going on? I said, what? Is there a revolt in the Bahamas? I said, no. And she mentioned something called COVID. And I said, come on, just go to, I said, what, a bunch of people are coughing? Big deal. So then I called some people though, and they said, no, it's serious. And you should, so anyways, that, but then it was in that moment when I went back up to Pennsylvania, and so that then I'll stop talking about the magazines. But so it went from one magazine because I sat, and I went from having one of the greatest months ever, and then all of a sudden going to literally ground zero. Like, that from April of 2020, at least in our business, it was just nothing, because just nothing. I went from literally having one of the best months, which as an entrepreneur is fantastic. You work for it, you know that. And then, then you can have a down month. But then going to basically, if that had been the only money I made, I'd say, I wonder how much tuna fish costs now. Like it was that. But so then, this is where, what defines, a true entrepreneur is you can put your tail between your legs and just say, I'm going to do something else, or you innovate. So I created a podcast like you have, and thank you for the information you shared with me. And my first podcasts were horrible, and then they became better. They're so bad. They're so bad. I can't even listen to them. They're so bad. And then, but then I looked at it differently. And I wish I had, someone taught me this once. His name is, speaking of travel, his name is Rob Saravalo, and he owns Tropic Ocean Airways. Anyone that ever wants to travel from Florida to the Bahamas, Tropic Ocean Airways, you should be working with him. He's sensational. And he's a great entrepreneur story as well. You should have him on this podcast. He's phenomenal. But when he created it, Tropic Ocean Airways, which is the largest seaplane operation on the planet, but even just focused on the, and he's a former Top Gun pilot, so he had the Navy training, and he left the Navy, and he was bike riding with some friends out in Italy, and he had seen seaplanes when he was flying his Navy planes, and it inspired him, I mean, they inspire me when I see them. I think that's the greatest job on the planet. Oh, yeah. Or one of them, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It inspired him. And he said to his friends on this trip, he said, I think I'm going to start a seaplane company. And they all said, you are out of your mind. But so he took, which as entrepreneurs, people will say that. I'm sure when you bought the Hotel Guide at 25, you had some people say,
yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah, did you have a long night at the bar last night? But yeah, you probably did. And but anyways, he read a Richard Branson book, Screw It, Just Do It, and he went for it. But one thing that and I correlate this with, and the last thing I'll talk about the magazines, and we can go just specifically on travel, is he reads a lot, and you can get a lot of information, valuable information from some of those Roman emperors and strategists. And one of them is called the OODA loop theory. And so in that moment in 2020, when I decided to just start looking at it differently. If I had looked at and I'm sure you've realized this, where you've thought of something and you thought, why didn't I think of this years ago? Right? Yeah. The most simple thing, I should have. And so then I started creating the additional titles, elevated yachts, elevated, et cetera, et cetera. And then, that's where we are today with 13 titles most of the year, 14 in the winter because of elevated snow, because I love the ski towns and that life. And but it was, COVID obviously was not the greatest thing, but there can be silver linings. Oh yeah. And for me, that was a silver lining. And I think for most people in industry, luxury realtors, it changed the industry. Now they do so many of they can do transactions now just doing what we're doing. Whereas it used to be such an old school, archaic, show them the product. It just changed things, and it's so much more better. And those are things we should have thought of as business people in a society years ago. So anyways, that is Elevated Magazine. Celebrity, luxury life, affluence, a bit of rock and roll, and then also, you got your amazing individuals like yourself, Liz Galloway, and thus that is that. So now, that was my probably way too long rant on Elevated Magazine.
No, but that's actually really good, because you talk a lot about entrepreneurism. You're talking about you got to be nimble. We're talking travel too, so obviously we've both been in the industry when it comes to our magazines, and again, we had certain topics we wanted to talk about coming in, but I like the flow when things happen. People look at moments, people look at these little things and being open to them, but also being able to pivot. And so I love what you've done to pivot. I love what we've done to pivot, because post pandemic, anyone in the hospitality industry, you had to. And if you didn't, you're not in business right now. So I love, like you said, every challenge has a silver lining or a blessing out of it if you look for it. Whereas most people don't.
It can. If you're that type of individual, it can. I'm sure when the pandemic, sorry to interrupt, but I'm sure before I forget, since you said it, I'm sure when COVID hit in that moment, because your business is travel, you must have had a moment of, I wonder if Walmart is hiring. I mean, you probably had a moment of.
You had to look at other options and look, okay, you got a marketing firm, you're a coach. What else can you do to help other companies? And so, you look at how you can still align and be successful, or you're not going to be around. And so I love your mentality. I love what you're doing with the brands. I know it's just great stuff. I love.
Thank you very much.
The thing that I love is the fact that you were going to do what I was going to do. Originally, I wanted to franchise the Hotel Guide and have Hotel Guide of LA, of New York, and then I was like, no, I just wanted one brand, one national, and this is where you come. This is the hub. This is my corner of the world, and this is where we'll be. So
it's like you could have done it. I could have done that too. But I just took a step back, and that's also, as an entrepreneur, you need to be able to take the ego out of it. Because an ego can lead you down like, well, I'm going to do it. All these cities, and I at the time, and I was, what, 8.5 years younger then, but to me, I was like, I was a kid compared to now. Yeah. And ego to me, it's really interesting, and being able to, you got to catch yourself, because you probably sitting there, you're 25 years old or however old you were when you were thinking about that. And when we're younger, ego can definitely plan. I'm going to have a hotel guide in New York, Hamptons, all this. And it's like, sure, could you have done it? Wouldn't have been as profitable, wouldn't have been as enjoyable. You may have not even kept doing it. You would have said, forget it. And I know I would have. I would have said, forget this, Well, seriously, it's like, I had to say to myself, all right, modern luxury pretty much has this crushed. So go ahead and leave that one alone. It's like,
don't touch that one. So it's funny.
Learn from what they're doing. Learn from what the best do, because you don't have to recreate the wheel, but pick the things you need. And that's what I've learned. But no, kudos to you too, because the travel industry and COVID, another silver lining for a big one for certain industry. Well, I think all industries that had silver linings, but especially for travel, is people, and I discussed this with so many great clients, from Visit Malta. That's a place I need to get to this year. Visit Malta, Evelyn at Casablanca, Sandy Lane, Barbados. I need to get there. I am going to get one of those greenback monkeys. But it gave people a new appreciation of travel, and they started looking at it differently. As opposed to what trip should we take this year? It's what experience should I take? 100%. And that's the way I think anyone should live life. Is that's why I love living in so many different places. Sure, it's cool to visit a place, but to me, and I mean that's my philosophy in life. But to actually live in it, then you get to experience this because of the business you're in, and you work with so many people. But and we have different lives. But for me, it's like to actually live in it, to get the culture. It's like each and every, and then a place you used to live in that you love, you can love that more in a different way. or it just it adjusts. And that's the beauty of travel in general. And I think COVID really gave that to people, especially, well, in general, but especially in the luxury affluent world, as opposed to, hey, honey, what trip should we take this year? It's looking at it, well, it gave people kind of a dinger upside the head of, life is precious. So experience it. And if we're going to take this trip, let's not wait on that yacht. Let's buy the yacht if you're in that realm. Let's do because, we're all, there is one truth in life is we all have an expiration date. Yeah. And so if you keep waiting for things, you don't want to get to the point where you look back and say, could have done that, didn't, and now I can't, do it while you can. Yeah.
No, and that's exactly true. And that's one of the top trends actually that I talked about for 25 is experiential travel. Experiential travel, luxury travel, and sustainability are all big deals for people nowadays. And I love that fact. We've got a few more minutes here, but I do want to touch on, I know you talked a little bit about some of the places you have traveled to, your favorites. What are a few of your bucket list travel spots that you might want to hit that you haven't done yet?
Great question. Oh, that I haven't done? That I haven't done. St. Bart's. That is my last bucket list in the Caribbean. I'll do a few bucket lists and I'll throw a few other ones out there that people may not know about. So bucket, Nantucket. Absolutely. Nantucket. I still need to do Park City, Utah. I love the ski towns. Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I still need to do that one. Okay. I love the ski towns, man. I love the ski towns. I can tell. Yeah, but I'm guessing around 90 seconds left or 120 seconds. Yes. What is your number one top bucket list? And then second question, where's your favorite place that you ever have traveled?
My favorite place is, I'm a big New York fan. I just love New York. From a bucket list standpoint, my roots go back to Spain and Italy. So I want to make it to Madrid, and Italy as well. Maybe the Amalfi Coast. I'm a coast beach guy kind of thing. Right. I have got clients that have them in the snow places. I'm going to need to make it out there because I got to experience that once, just like you said.
You have to, even if you don't ski or snowboard.
Correct.
It will change your life. And so I'll segue into this. So those are my bucket list ones for now. But then it's also every day just wondering where the day might take you.
What can I do next? Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but to pass along to you and to the last 30 seconds I have to your audience is, if you have, sure, people can visit a ski town, but to actually spend at least a week, if you can too, in a ski town, whether it's the winter or the summer, both amazing. Whether you ski or snowboard, doesn't matter, because we all know the story of, and I'll remind you of it if you don't recall, Peter Pan. And when you live in those towns, and if you're with your wife, she's Wendy, everything vanishes. You're living in a snow globe, and it's just from the people that work in the restaurants to the people that are there with hundreds of millions of dollars. It is life perfected. And of all the amazing places I've lived, living in the ski towns has changed my life more than anything. And I can't wait to do it again. And now, thanks so much, my friend, because we've talked about it so much. You just ruined my day because I'm currently not in one. I'm just kidding. Thank you for the time. You are awesome. You are so good at what you do. And I look forward to us collaborating in the future. Yeah. And I hope you have a great weekend. And I hope it's not as cold as it was last time we spoke in your hometown.
No, it's going great, Jud. I appreciate you being on the show today. It's been amazing. I know this won't be the last time that we have a podcast together, because there's so much we could talk about, particularly the ski towns. Out of you're bringing that up. We'll definitely touch on that later on in the year as well. But thanks for being on here. For all of our listeners, readers, and everyone out there, please follow us at thehotelguide.com. Like, subscribe, share. We'll have Jud's Elevated Magazine's website in our comments as well, so you can catch up with him as well. But again, thank you for everybody for being watching us today. Again, travel, make memories, and until next time, take care.